You're welcome all to another episode of Most Hated Podcast with Riley Lewis and Byron Francis. Today we're taking yet another step into African American culture. We'll be discussing the sweet sounds of jazz and the sweet sensations you get from looking at art, paintings, sculptures, all of that. Today we'll be discussing what we believe is the best artists out of the Harlem Renaissance, from sculptors to painters, singers, and all we have to say about that is the Harlem Renaissance was truly a time of black excellence. And today we'll have two guest podcasts with us, teacher and then another one of our teachers, and actually our African American studies teacher, Miss Luce. So, Byron, do you have anything else that you want to add to?
I'm really excited for this show. This is the first time we're actually gonna broadcast it, not just to Capital Prep, but actually upload this and just have a larger outside audience. So I'm really excited, and not only that, but sooner or later, me and Riley are thinking about taking this a step forward to from just doing school assignments to actually just making this a regular podcast and stuff. So yeah, just be on the lookout.
Sure.
Alright, so the first guest speaker we have today is Mr. Borders himself. If you go to Capital Prep, you already know Mr. Borders is easily one of the most influential teachers. He's when it comes to black culture, you know how he is. So he's just an amazing person to have here. I'm really happy and excited to have him here. He's also my advisor, so
what's going on? I'm actually really happy to be here with y'all. This is really cool what y'all doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're happy to have you. So during the Harlem Renaissance, who do you think was the best or most influential artist?
I think the best, personally, for me, being a poet, is definitely obviously Langston Hughes. I think who is the most notable, probably one of the most notable names coming from that time period. But I think maybe if you're just talking about most influential, I think it might have to be probably an artist like Billie Holiday, that made a song or songs like Strange Fruit, which had these deeper messages that were really trying to expose people to what was happening in different parts of America to African Americans. And so it's kind of hard when you ask who's the best or who's the most influential, because I think that's kind of the purpose of the Harlem Renaissance, was to create this art that kind of gave people and even African Americans a glimpse at what life was like for a majority of African Americans during a time period in America. So it's really hard to just narrow down on one when they all carry such a great mission to try to really expose culture to all of America in order to push us forward as a society.
Thank you so much, Mr. Borders.
Agree.
I definitely agree with you, man. It's there's so many different artists, and they each have their own unique style. It's how do you really pick one? The only way to pick one is to be biased, which me, I like to draw. I'm a fan of visual art. So for me personally, my favorite would either have to be Woodruff, Hale Woodruff. Just mostly because of his murals, especially the ones they still have him standing up at Talladega University, from the Underground Railroad to the Amistad to the trial of the Amistad, and then even the mural he did about black signing up. It was, oh man, I wish I could share it, but it was basically a picture of a bunch of blacks signing up to go to Talladega University when it first opened up. And again, this is during a time period where blacks were denied education and stuff. So to see that picture, it's a really powerful imagery. And overall, I just feel he did something different. Whereas I really believe that pictures can speak a million words. So when you see these pictures, it's not just oh, the Amistad happened, a bunch of white people were killed. When you see the Amistad, you think these are black people who they're basically fighting for their lives because they know what's at stake for them when they get to America and whatnot. And then when you see the trial of the Amistad, what's significant about the trial is this is the first time in where like America sided with African Americans. Like legit, like this is a time where like slavery is rampant. Like the South, you know, they don't really care about us, and yet normally you would think that, oh, because they're black, they're just gonna say, oh, let's just enslave them or whatever. But like this trial was like the one time where like they actually said, we're gonna send them back home and we're gonna do what's right. So I feel like those images and stuff, they speak a lot more volume than I feel like a lot of people realize.
Yeah, and I think people forget, like, you know, the Harlem Renaissance wasn't the first time black people ever created art, but it was the first time that black people were acknowledged for their art. And it's just funny that some of these first acknowledgments of black people and their artistry are some of the images and some of the names that we still, you know, can be moved by today, or that we still talk about today. So it's just the Harlem Renaissance is a very interesting point in history for all of America, not even just African Americans, but it was eye-opening on both ends to show like the worth of African Americans and what they can produce. And, you know, then for African Americans themselves, it was, you know, if you weren't, you know, able to see a certain part of the country or a certain lifestyle, it gave you hope, or it also just, you know, educated you, in a way like we had never seen before with anything, in America. So, like you said, some of these things that we're talking about that were created almost 100 plus years ago, you know, are things that are still in some way connecting to people that have, you know, that weren't even around or even thought of being around back then. So it's interesting. It's just really a beautiful thing.
And then we're gonna move on to our next guest call. Everybody, I just want to again say thank you, Mr. Borders, for being here so much. And I know you guys are watching us at home, so just give him a round of applause. I mean, like, it was just amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, the Borders, for logging on.
Alright, so next up, the African American Studies teacher herself, Miss Luce. She's actually the one who started the Punch of the Poetry thing that Capital Prep does every year. So I just want to, so like, we had to have her. Like, I feel like she definitely played a role in Capital Prep culture, and she's just a really amazing African American study teacher. Yeah. Let's go, Miss Luce.
What an introduction. I feel like that's gassing me up, but that's okay. I'm really excited to be here for you guys and to hear what you guys all have to say about this very specific project and lesson. And I guess the question that you're asking, Byron and Riley, is who is my favorite artist during Renaissance? Okay. Yes. So I'm really excited to say who mine is, because it's very much the same as Byron's favorite artist. When I like culture, I love studying culture, and on top of that, I love studying art, music, poetry, and etc. So I'm really excited that Byron and I share the same favorite artist, who is Hale Woodruff. There is So there is a specific painting that I showed my students called The Underground Railroad, which was a mural that he had made in 1942. But the very first time I actually saw a Woodruff painting was when I visited Paris this past summer at a bookstore called Shakespeare and Company, and I was walking down the steps and I was like, dang, like, this painting is dope. And I knew right away that it was about the Underground Railroad, but I wouldn't say that the idea that the people in it are crossing, like, you won't know off the bat unless you've been well versed about history and like etc. that the image itself is about the Underground Railroad. But it's this like really vibrant, colorful painting with, and when I say colors, like so much color in it, but in it you also see so many other issues that were going on, that are still going on in society today. Patriarchy, just a bunch of issues in one image, which really stuck out to me. So it's really interesting to see and to hear that students are also invested and like interested in the art that I am, and I'm really excited for that.
Now, Miss Luce, you mentioned Hale Woodruff, and I was wondering, are there any like singers that have influenced you, or any singers that draw your attention from Harlem Renaissance era?
Oh man, like when it comes to music, like most of you, like Byron has already mentioned, that Mr. Borders has already mentioned, this was it was such a vibrant time that I can't just choose one person, especially music, because music is such like a empowering, it just gives you an empowering feeling. Billie Holiday was definitely a influential artist during that time, but then when we look at the lineup, there was like a Bessie Smith, and then like there's like a Duke Ellington, and then just so many different singers and artists during that time. I can't just choose one. Like, music is hard for me. Music is real hard for me.
Yeah, same here. There's just so many artists to choose from, and it's like you can't really separate them from each other because they all had such a huge impact.
Right. Whereas, like, when you, like, everybody has a taste, right?
Yeah.
And to me, though, like, when you say visual artist, I immediately think Woodruff, because of the way in which he styles his art. But when you say music, man, that's hard. That is hard. That is rough. It is just a hard topic to discuss.
Yeah, it truly is. And I would say one artist that I agree with that Borders mentioned was Billie Holiday. It's like I just love her voice. Huge.
And she is also very proactive, or she was very proactive in social justice and etc.
A little bit of an activist as well.
Yep.
Me, like, the music was amazing. Obviously, Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, and you had The Lion. So like, for me, like, it's too, like, oh man, like, eeny, meeny, miny, mowing. I feel like, but with the art, it's like with art, I'm able to sit there and I'm able to say, it's definitely Woodruff. Like, again, like, it's just his style that also, like, grabs your attention. Like, when you look at his style, like, it wasn't, like, rooted in, like, African American culture. Like, it wasn't, like, taken directly from, like, how do I word this? It wasn't like the typical art style you will see from like African Americans. Like, his style was inspired by like Latin Americans and like Latinos and Hispanics, like Picasso. Then you had Frida Kahlo. So like, and the way he would just use like the bright imagery to show like even some topics that were like dark. It was just like, it was really eye opening, and it's like immediately grabs your attention. So that's why I pick him. His art just stands out like you can't ignore it at all, even if you tried.
And speaking of art, I also like draw reference to Augustus Savage. Like, one sculpture that she had that draws my eyes is there's a sculpture of like two Africans that she built, right? But their hands come together, and under each of their arms, there's an eye under each of them. And when their hands connect, a nose comes down, and at the bottom where their feet are, there's a chin, and then there's a mouth. So it's a face in between both of the Africans. And I just looked at it, and I was like, for someone to create that back then, that's like well ahead of her time. And I just looked at it for like, it's like I almost got lost in it, because when I saw it, I just saw like true art in a sense, because people don't make art like that anymore. And I thought, this time is special because people are making things like that all the time, and we don't really get pieces of artwork like that anymore. So it really shows you how such a good time the Harlem Renaissance was, not just for African Americans, but for everyone that was viewing the art during this time, listening to the music, and really just enjoying it during that time.
Miss Luce has left the building, and so Mr. Borders, again, I just want you guys to, like, I'm just happy that they came, and I really want you guys to just sit there and, like, listen to what they said. Honestly, like, with them, we could have honestly been here forever. Like, this easily could have been, like, a 1 hour conversation with them. So, but, you know, they're busy people, so, I I'm just happy that they were able to take the time to come here. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'm just happy that they took the time out of their busy schedules to sit down with us and just talk about Black history, Black culture, Harlem Renaissance, because it really does mean a lot. It's culture, and it means something to us.
Like, the Harlem Renaissance is honestly one of my favorite periods in history. I feel like it's definitely like the most interesting, and I feel like from the Harlem Renaissance, it paved the way for like you know, like how they say, like, Black culture is American culture, and like so whatever. Like, I feel like the Harlem Renaissance, like, you really see, like, it's true, like, because like we created jazz, and then from that, the white people, you know, how like they do what they do, so then they hop on it, and then they shift it to swing. Like, I feel like the Harlem Renaissance was a time where we said, alright, so this is like the fate, or like this is like the image you guys had for us, but nah, this is the image we are. Like, this is who we really are. I feel like they definitely like, it's a time where African Americans put their foot down and said, we are not like the monsters, the stereotypes you portray us to be. Like, this is who we are. And then
it was like, yeah, it was like, I felt like there was like pain and like feelings behind everything that came out of the Harlem Renaissance. You could hear it in the jazz, you can see it in the sculptures, you can hear it in the singing. It's all there. It's pain, reflection. It's like living through their pieces of art and sending it out to the world to feel what they feel.
And that art still is alive and still influences us to even this day. And I just, like, it's really amazing, because, like, when people think about history, it's like, you don't know, like, how close really are to everything. Like, this is really just 100 years ago. Like, this all just started, like, 100 years ago. And it's crazy, like, just how much it evolved. Like, it went from jazz and to hip-hop, and, like, it's basically, like, it shows basically that Black people we were been paving the way, we were been creating styles and stuff like that, and I'm just, man, it just makes me happy to show that, like, in setting the standards and creating this stuff.
And to add to what you said, like, started so many things. Like, you can look at jazz as almost like the framework of everything, the starting point of almost everything. People were drawing reference from jazz to their own styles of music, and so it really was like a starting point.
Like, it got to where, like, white people were like, oh shoot, it's hot, I'm gonna add Black orchestras to my group. And it's like, and there's a time period where, like, they weren't even letting Black people be movie stars and stuff like that. Like, they were doing blackface. Exactly. And then, like, with the creation of jazz music and other stuff, they're like, oh yeah, we might need these people. Like, I'm gonna add these people here. They're like, this is popular, let's hop on the bandwagon or whatever. And I love it. I just love it, man.
It's like, jazz music really affected, not just jazz music, but everything that came out of the Harlem Renaissance that was Black affected everyone else.
The world.
It wasn't just like contained in this little ball in Harlem. No, it spread out. It went everywhere across the country, overseas, all that. Because what it did was it would bring these white people who would come in and see everything that was going on. And they were like, "Hey, I want to jump on the bandwagon." And when they jumped on the bandwagon, that's when it spread. That's when it took off. That's when the effect really hit everyone else. That's when the culture spread. And that's why it has such a lasting impact now.
And Riley, once again, my friend, you are 100% correct. And that's all for today's show, Most Hated, with your host, Byron the Most Hated, Riley the Least Likeable. Just to make sure you're staying tuned, because we will be dropping more podcasts very soon, actually. And for those of you that are watching this, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. Once again, shout out Miss Luce, shout out Mr. Borders for taking the time for coming on this podcast and speaking with us. And they didn't really have to, but they did anyway. And we just love having them here because they're like two of the most insightful teachers and people you'll probably ever meet. And so, yeah, I just want to thank them again. Even though you're home, make sure you are clapping your hands like ferociously for them. And yeah, signing off. Peace.